and thanks for joining us tonight in our virtual world for the Fifth by Northwest 60% design meeting. The screen in front of you gives you a few pointers on how to communicate with us throughout the presentation or during the question and answer period. So if you have a question or comment during the presentation, feel free to submit it in the chat box. During the question and answer period, if you want to raise your hand, we can call on you and then you can give your question to the general group. We try to keep it focused on general blueprint questions, and if you have a property specific one, put it in the chat. If you have any technical difficulties, let us know and we'll try to help you out. All right, so this is a Fifth by Northwest 60% design meeting, and we're happy to have you all here. Today, we're going to be going over, first of all, just a refresher on Blueprint, just to remind you what it is we're trying to accomplish and how we're intending to do so. We're going to focus on green infrastructure and then go through some of the plans for your neighborhood. And we'll turn that over to the project managers to describe what's going to go on and the next steps that they'll be taking. And then, as we said, we'll have a question and answer period for you to raise general questions to the group. So we'll start with Blueprint 101, a brief refresher. So Blueprint is the City of Columbus's solution to solving sanitary sewer overflows. So what's going on is the rainwater that's falling is getting into our sanitary sewer system through cracks and holes in our pipes, in the sanitary pipes. And the sanitary system was not designed to carry both rainwater and sanitary water. So what happens is it overflows, and it either overflows into the river or the stream, or it backs up into our basements, neither of which is pleasant. So those are the two primary issues. So the sewer overflows into our river and the basement backups into from our floor drain into our basement. But also when rainwater is falling, it's picking up trash and oil and dirt and nutrients along as it flows down the street. And that's also getting carried into our rivers and streams through the storm sewers. So all of that dirt and everything on the road. So that's in general the issue. Our solution, and we have to have a solution because the APA put us under a consent order and said, Columbus, this is happening too often. You're having too many sanitary sewer overflows. You have to fix it. So our solution, we chose to go the route of innovative and green. People ask us often, why don't you just build bigger pipes so they can carry all of that sanitary water and the rainwater together? But we felt like that was just a band-aid to the problem, and we wanted to go to the source of the problem and fix it by investing in our existing infrastructure and sealing it up, fixing it like new, and also creating opportunities to improve the stormwater that does make it to the river and the stream. So we're doing this in routing water away from our house to the street and then treating it with green infrastructure before it gets to the rivers and streams. This way, we're improving our rivers and the water that we eventually will use again for drinking water. We're improving our neighborhoods and the local economy. So Blueprint uses teams, design engineers, construction workers, firms, inspection firms, and maintenance workers from Columbus, or at least Central Ohio. So we're investing in the local economy in that way and providing jobs. So Blueprint is a 30-year project, and we have 21 project areas, as you can see here. Probably noticed that most of these areas are older parts of Columbus, and that's mostly the reason we chose them, because that's where the infrastructure is old and it's cracking or it's made of clay and it's just not holding up, and it's allowing that rainwater to enter the sanitary sewer system. So Blueprint has 4 different parts or pillars: lateral lining, roof water redirection, sump pumps, and green infrastructure. We'll go through those pretty quickly here just as a refresher. The lateral lining is our answer to sealing up that sanitary system and preventing the rainwater from getting into it in the first place. So what we want to do is line the home sewer laterals with a waterproof material that fills in those cracks and holes and makes your pipe kind of like brand new. So it'll last for another 50 to 100 years. It improves the property value. It's a huge benefit to the homeowner, and it prevents that future root intrusion. So it's very strong, and it prevents not only water, but roots from getting in. Roof water redirection is how we're going to get that water that falls on your roof out to the street. So in the top picture here, you can see a lot of people's downspouts splash on a splash pad right near their foundation, and that can allow rainwater to pool around the house's foundation, seeping into the basement, into the floor drain, the foundation drain, or the lateral joint, which we don't want. So roof water redirection, part of our project, routes all those downspouts out to the street so that they can't have the water seeping in at that point. We try to tie it into green infrastructure as much as possible. And you can see in the bottom picture, that one goes all the way out to the curb. Sump pumps. So sump pumps are probably the most popular part of our program. All houses and duplexes that are in Blueprint active areas are eligible if they don't already have a sump pump. So what a sump pump's purpose is a lot of these older homes have foundation drains that are directly connected to the sanitary lateral, and that's allowing the rainwater to get in there again where we don't want it to be. So putting a sump pump in a basement that does have that connection will help us to disconnect it and allow that water to be routed through the sump pump and out to the street, and again, hopefully into green infrastructure where possible. And this is at no cost to the residents. So the city provides the installation, the sump pump, and the backup battery in this case. This area is eligible for sump pump inspections right now. And if you are interested in that, go ahead and put your name and number in the chat and let us know, and we'll get you on that waiting list. Today's focus is green infrastructure. So you may have seen us out in your neighborhood painting locations of these rain gardens and pervious pavement. So we want to talk about a little bit about what they are and what they'll do. So green infrastructure is nature's filtration system. And we talked about that rainwater rushing down the street picks up leaves and debris, nutrients and oil and dirt as it carries along. If we can route it through a rain garden or other green infrastructure, then we can filter out the debris and leaves before it reaches the storm sewer system. So in the end, we're improving the stormwater discharges. So the other three pillars of Blueprint help to seal up the system and move the water where it's supposed to go. And green infrastructure captures the water, cleans it before it gets to the river, resulting in a cleaner water in the end. How does it do this? Well, green infrastructure is made up of layers. This is a cross section of a rain garden. As you can see, the top is what we see, is the plants and the soil and the mulch. And then below that is a special soil. It's an engineered biosoil. It's made of sand and soil, and then layers and layers of stone and aggregate. And the bottom is the most unique part of our rain gardens, is a perforated pipe called the underdrain. And this is what allows all the water that's seeping through the rain garden, and it's filtering it as it goes. It's going to end up in this pipe and then carry away out to the storm sewer. So that's what allows our rain gardens to drain within 48 hours, and what makes them especially unique, and what also makes them part of the storm sewer system. So pervious pavement works similarly. So layers of rock in different sizes, and then at the bottom of the screen, you can't see it, but there'd also be an underdrain underneath pervious pavement. So the water would seep through those little joints in the top and down through the rock, ending up in the underdrain where it's carried off to the storm sewer. And pervious pavement is, in the end, very beautiful. It's also got other benefits of traffic calming. It filters and cleans the storm water, much like a rain garden when it goes through. And it reduces street flooding. So just having the pervious pavement there helps the water not to sit on the street. It actually absorbs down and goes under into the underdrain, helping the water stay off the street. And there's less maintenance required. If you'd like to see existing pervious pavement or rain gardens, you can take a ride to Clintonville on East Dominion Boulevard or Cook Way in Clintonville. You'll find the pervious pavement, and then you can probably easily find rain gardens as well close to that. We want to point out too that we use native plants in our rain gardens, and that they are special plants that can survive a lot of water and a lot of dry and snow and ice and salt. They're very special, and we picked them for that reason. So you can check those out as well. Probably the biggest question we get is who's going to maintain all these things? And the city is responsible for all of the maintenance on the rain gardens and the pervious pavement. All of our green infrastructure is part of the storm sewer system. So regular maintenance is essential to keep it functioning correctly. And that includes regular weeding, mulching, plant care. Plants die, we replace them, removing trash, checking the under drains and the overflow structures, and then sediment removal. And then also you can see we have a special truck that cleans the pervious pavement. So usually maintenance is about once a month, and residents, if they notice something is off with the rain garden, can always call us or call 311 and let us know, and we can go out and check it out. All right, and now I will turn it over to Nick Dominic. He is the neighborhood lead for Fifth by Northwest and one of the project managers on the team for a project overview. Nick.
Thanks, Tiffany. Go ahead and advance to the next one there. So just a general overview of the area. It's approximately bounded by King Avenue on the north side and 3rd Avenue on the south side, Wyandotte on the west side, and all the way down to Olentangy River Road on the east. The project boundary is divided into 2 project areas by Northwest Boulevard. On the east there, the purple area being Edge Hill Meadow and the western one being Sunrise Glen. As anyone who lives in the area knows, the drainage or the runoff follows approximately the topography of the area, going from north to south and then running from west to east down to the river. Anybody who's driven down 3rd Avenue or 5th Avenue during a rain event knows all that water tends to collect at those railroad underpasses by Burger King on 5th Avenue and Granby Yard down on 3rd. And accordingly, our sewers follow the same topography as well. So our main collector sewer for all of the sanitary flows coming from this area goes down 3rd Avenue and goes eventually through a siphon under the river. But that sanitary sewer is woefully undersized for the amount of rainfall that is entering the sewer, the cracks and holes that Tiffany showed in the video earlier. And we have numerous DSRs, as we call them. They're called design sewer reliefs, or in other terms, a sanitary sewer overflow all along 3rd Avenue, where that sanitary sewer overflows to the storm sewer, which is also going down 3rd Avenue and goes directly to the river. There are a handful of other DSRs and SSOs throughout the project area, but the main ones that are being addressed by some of the improvements that we've done previously along 3rd Avenue are along down there by Granby Yard. And we have done some pipe upsizing in the past, but as Tiffany said, we need to actually address the root cause of the problem, and that's why we're performing some of these other pillars. Go ahead and advance to the next one. Tiffany, if you could advance it. There we go. Okay, so we identified the 4 pillars previously, and we said that, well, the lateral lining and the roof redirection is the one that's getting the water out of the sanitary system. So you look at that timeline there and you say, well, why are we doing those ones last? Well, because we're taking the water out of the sanitary system and introducing it into the stormwater system, we want to have the green infrastructure in place before we do the lateral lining and roof redirection to give the water somewhere to go, so that we don't exacerbate any existing flooding locations or make things worse just in general. The sump pumps can occur prior to the green infrastructure, though, even though they are introducing new stormwater into the gutter lines. Just by virtue of the fact that we have to achieve our goals, we have to install 185 sump pumps in the project area, which represents approximately 25% of the number of residential structures in the Fifth by Northwest area. Go ahead and advance. And Tiffany, I believe you guys were going to cover this slide, or do you want me to?
You could, Nick.
Sorry, say that again, Leslie. You wanted me to?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Okay, so everybody always asks the question of, how are we selecting the locations of the green infrastructure that we're proposing to put? And first, I think it's necessary to understand what the tools in the toolbox are that we have available to us. And so in those 4 squares there, you can see that land bank and parks are our preferred location to put green infrastructure, just from an economy of scale perspective. But unfortunately, in the 5th by Northwest, we don't really have parks available to us, nor land bank properties. So what that does is that forces us into the right-of-way, where we would install, ideally, rain gardens in between the back of the curb and the right-of-way line. But sometimes there's conflicts with other utilities, the root structures of trees, because we don't, or there are standards for where we can locate green infrastructure with respect to driveways and intersections. And then also, we kind of want to locate these bioretention basins close to existing storm sewers so that we don't have to install significantly long runs of storm sewers to be able to connect to an existing system, because it would kind of blow the equation on the affordability of them. And then lastly, we need to make sure that they're capturing the appropriate amount of runoff so that we are not overloading them with sediment and having a maintenance burden. So when you pile all of those different criteria together, it actually really restricts the number of locations where we can put these facilities. And if we can't achieve the requisite volume of detention that we need with behind the curb rain gardens, as we call them, then it kicks into our next tier of our hierarchy of green infrastructure, which is the permeable pavers, which is actually a really nice, leave behind, as evidenced by some of the photos that we'll show in the presentation here. But it is also a very costly endeavor and presents its own affordability challenges. And then lastly, if it is cost prohibitive to do the permeable pavers, installation of bump outs, as was shown in some previous photos and even in the schematic there, is our last option. We prefer not to do that because it's kind of an inefficient type of installation, and it also takes parking spots away. So it's really our last resort option. So go ahead and skip forward. And now, armed with that information as far as how we select the locations and the types of installations, I believe Patrick Carnes will run through some of the types of facilities that are being proposed for the Edge Hill Meadow project area.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. So the Edge Hill Meadow project area, as Nick mentioned, is the project area which is located on the east side of the 5th by Northwest area. So we're going to be generally bounded by Northwest Boulevard, King Avenue to the north, 3rd Avenue to the south, and then, as Nick mentioned, clear out to Olentangy River Road. But however, you all have, you live in the area and you understand that pretty much east of Eastview Avenue, you move more into more of a commercial apartment setting and more out of the residential setting of the project area. And since the Blueprint program is focused on residential improvements, the roof redirects, the residential sump pump program, and the residential lateral lining, as you would expect, then most of the additional stormwater that Nick mentioned created occurs in the residential area. So our improvements are focused primarily in the Northwest Boulevard, King Avenue, 3rd Avenue, and Eastview Avenue corridor. So what you'll see here is a depiction of the locations of some of the proposed improvements in the Edge Hill Meadow project area. So our project includes 7 blocks of paver installations. And as Nick, some of the things Nick mentioned is the reason we went with the pavers, and those are shown in the purple there. Existing site characteristics, working around some of the existing, utilities and other characteristics of the site itself. And in addition to the necessary stormwater treatment benefit, these sites were selected. In addition to those, 21 rain garden locations were selected. And this does not include any of the bump outs that Nick mentioned that would go out into the street. We do not have any of those in this project area. Those locations are shown in red along the corridors there. And again, selected based on the runoff treatment needs of the project area. And again, if there were suitable locations to house those. We also have one underground detention structure. It'll be located on roughly on the corner of on King Avenue and Meadow. This is an underground type GI structure to again provide stormwater treatment benefit. We also are proposing new stormwater inlets at the intersection of Meadow and West 5th, as well to address some stormwater runoff issues in that area. As part of our project, we did also complete, and as part of every project, one of the blueprint requirements is to complete what is called a parking study. So what we do is we go visit the project site on multiple nights, on mornings, middays, and evenings, on weekends and on weekdays, and count the parked cars or vehicles utilizing existing parking spaces throughout the project area. This kind of helps us understand a baseline of parking utilization throughout our project areas to help better inform our the locations of our proposed improvements and try to not to impact parking in a negative way. Next slide, please. So what you see here is a few renderings of a couple of our proposed basin locations. So the image there on the left of your screen will be one of our right-of-way rain gardens. So this is a location along Eastview Avenue, and where we show it's a walled rain garden, and you'll see there that it directs those brown areas in the curb line, or what lets the water come into the facility and be treated, and then if it were too much, it would come back out those, but typically we'll handle that with the in structure set up. And as you can see, it's planted with the native plants as Tiffany discussed, and grows up there. The next one you see there is another behind the curb right-of-way rain garden. And so it is located, that particular one is on Thornview Avenue near Eastview again. Very similar setup to the one I just described, the difference there being it doesn't have the walls around it. Next slide. Finally, you'll see a rendering of a proposed pervious paver application. Off the top of my head, I don't remember exactly what street that is, but this gives you a representative idea of what it would look like. You'll notice the paver installation that you would see if you went up to the Dominion Boulevard in the Clintonville area to see. Another thing you'll notice is the sidewalk on the right hand of the screen there. So one of the requirements is part of a City of Columbus roadway project, specifically where you're doing a major reconstruction of a roadway, is the addition of a sidewalk on one side of the street. So that will be a change you'll notice in the permeable paver areas. Next slide. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Nick.
Okay, thanks, Patrick. Similarly, we also have 7.5 blocks of the permeable pavement. We were able to get approval of our plans for some shorter runs of installations there up on King Avenue and 5th Avenue, basically just to the nearest alley north of 5th and King. But what that results in too is some additional rain gardens scattered throughout the entire project area, because we're not as constrained as Edge Hill Meadow project area was with some of the commercial properties and the limited amount of right-of-way. We also were installing the planter box style, which Patrick showed in his renderings there, and we'll see on the next slide for ours. which are basically the four-sided basins, which are really able to capture a lot of water and maximize the amount that we can get in there. Similarly, we also conducted a parking study on similar types of timelines as far as when we capture the number of vehicles parked morning, day, and evening. And the numbers there indicate that we're losing about a total of 38 spots across the entire project area. And I believe that is actually indicated by the red locations on the map there. And lastly, we are coordinating with our Division of Water for the replacement of a water line on Fairview Avenue so that we're not having to tear the road up twice, basically, because that was something that we heard loud and clear from the first public meeting that we had quite a while ago. Go ahead, next slide. So in Sunrise Glen, the predominant styles of rain gardens that we're installing is the planter box one that I had mentioned before with the four-sided walls. The two main differences between them is the one on the left there does not include the 2-foot step out. So it prohibits parking immediately adjacent to it since you don't want to open your door and step down into a rain garden. And there's significantly less of these than there is of the style on the right, which still preserves that 2-foot step out where you would be able to park next to it. One of the other notable things about the one on the left too is that it shows us relocating the sidewalk around it where there's an existing sidewalk. And there are other locations too where we are preserving 5 feet of space for a potential future sidewalk as well. Go ahead, next slide. And similar to Patrick's area, we are also proposing those permeable pavement locations. So I won't talk about those at length other than to maybe note some of the constructability considerations with them because of the nature of them and the massive soil that needs to be excavated for those. Those typically require street closure in order to accomplish it. So just from a constructability standpoint, that will be something that we will discuss more as the design progresses. Go ahead, next slide. So limited changes from the public meeting that we had, I want to say 18 months ago. At the time, there were previous regional basins, one of them being located at the data center that was in the area, but that has since become not available to us. We're performing some additional storm sewer enhancements with inlets and additional piping. But basically, if you attended that first meeting, there has not been a significant number of changes. So, but we are here to respond to any questions that people have. So next slide. One of the items that I had mentioned earlier is that we are potentially coordinating with our Department of Public Service for potential sidewalk installations. We don't know if they are going to be able to secure funding for those yet. So we're still having a little bit of a question mark on that, but we hope to be able to collaborate with them on that. Additional constructability considerations when we're installing these rain gardens in the storm sewers, it does potentially require relocation of the water mains, which means that there will be very brief service interruptions while we're relocating those mains and service lines. And then, oh, that chat box is obscuring my screen. Hold on, I can't see the last 2 bullets. Okay, yeah, we're also trying to limit the amount of storm sewer construction that is required. And but sometimes, you know, we can't get around it, and we are going to wind up impacting the drip lines of trees. And you can see the replacement ratios that are required per the mayor's executive order regarding trees, and in conjunction with our Department of Rec and Parks Urban Forestry Master Plan for increasing canopy throughout the city. So even when we are, it's unavoidable that we have to cut down a tree, we are replacing them according to the ratios that can be seen there. Next slide. I believe I'll hand it back to Tiffany to talk about some of the upcoming milestones.
Actually, here, Nick, I'll pick up from here. My name is Leslie Westerfeld. I am also part of the outreach team. And so basically where we're at here, so we had started our initial surveying and we had our 30% design meeting in 2018. So that's where we kind of shared our initial concept proposals to get feedback from residents. And now we are at our 60% design. And so I realize these milestones probably mean nothing to anybody except for us, but 60% design is really where we've identified those preferred locations. We've explored the constructability a little bit more, right? And so that usually results from coordination with other departments, particularly Department of Public Service, and then the different utilities. So we've been coordinating with them, and now we really want to make sure to hear back from the residents. And so the kind of feedback that we're looking for here is comments on, perhaps the design of the rain gardens. We are looking for feedback on locations. If you want to share with us information about where you're seeing street flooding or ponding and things like that, that is also welcome, particularly at this stage. We have done a lot of surveying in this neighborhood, but obviously the best surveyors in any neighborhood are the people that live there and see this stuff every day. So that is kind of the feedback that we're looking for right now. We also have done some outreach to the businesses as well, just because this impacts everybody, and particularly during the construction process. So we're going to take this feedback that we receive from the community and from the other departments, and then the design team will continue to add another layer of detail to their plans. So when we get to 90% design, that's really where, we will kind of take some feedback at that point. And obviously, we want to continue to talk to folks, but we're really nearing the end of that. And so we're kind of trying to wrap all of this up. At that stage is also where we like to request planting preferences from residents. So if you are located near a rain garden, then we will provide you with the planting palette that Tiffany referenced. So we do have pre-approved plants that can survive in these rain gardens, but we have a list of that. And so we like to allow property owners to, kind of let us know what their preferences are. If it can be some plants that kind of weave into your current aesthetic or, your current planting, that is always great. So, and then we're expecting to have shovels in the ground in 2023. Now, just a note, before we actually put shovels in the ground, we will have a public meeting with the contractor. So we call this our pre-construction meeting. There you will learn kind of their order of operations. So some contractors start and they do all of their storm sewer work first, or all of the water line first, and they do it in stages. Some prefer to kind of keep it tight by geographic area. So they'll do all of the work on one street before moving to the next. So once the contractor's on board, we can share more information about more, kind of the schedules that you can expect, what the work would look like, and then also have discussions specifically about how it impacts you. As Nick mentioned, the permeable pavers, while definitely have a lot of benefits and are very popular, the construction process for that is difficult and much more disruptive than the individual rain gardens. And so we will be having detailed conversations with people about that to make sure that any mobility issues are addressed, any special needs regarding medical transportation and things like that. And so really having detailed conversations. I say that because while you're thinking about the proposal that we are offering you right now, I want us to kind of keep in mind that the construction difficulties associated with any of this is temporary. And so right now we really want you to kind of be thinking long-term. So Tiffany, next slide, please. So right now, what we're going to do is I'd like to open this up for questions. So you can submit questions in the chat. I know that there's been some that we're kind of touching base on. And then also, if you have property specific questions, you can ask them here. We might not be able to answer them, you know, if it requires kind of a detailed review. And so certainly you can always email those questions or call us as well, and we can follow up with that. So our email address is down there at the bottom, as well as our phone number. This is not 311, so just please be conscious. We kind of have a smaller team, and so if you call and leave a voicemail, we will get back to you, but we can't always answer the phone live. So with that, I would like to kind of open it up for discussion. I know that we have one person who had raised their hand, so John Fortin. John, are you able to unmute yourself, or Joseph, can you unmute John for us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we got you.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Hey, my parents have lived on the corner of Eastview and 3rd 75 years. So I know the area. I lived there all my life. I live across the street now on the Grandview side. But I like the idea. I think it looks nice. It's always flooded, but it floods on Eastview. Now, maybe, you know, floods on 3rd Avenue more than Eastview. But if you look at my parents' property on the corner of Eastview and 3rd, which would be the northeast corner, she already has like a natural garden thing started there. But the way you guys marked off the area is going to cause me a lot of parking problems. Because right now, Eastview is the same as Kenny Road, if you're familiar with Eastview. And I get all the fire trucks, I get the buses, I get tractor trailers, and we actually park on the curb because you get your mirrors knocked off. So I think if you would relocate or even come out and talk to me about it, if you relocate your gardens where my parents already have the garden areas, you know, where the water can feed into it, I think you'd be better off where they have the garden space already set. And on 3rd Avenue, I think you would collect more water and it won't cause me a traffic problem where, you know, these fire trucks come around the corner. I mean, I get tractor trailers down Eastview Avenue. Believe it or not, I think these truck drivers use their GPS and they don't know where they're at. But by the time they get, you know, Eastview Avenue is kind of the cutoff, like you people said, between the residential and the commercial. But we get tractor trailers, we get 3 different sets of fire trucks, you know, we get all the ambulances, everything comes around that corner. Someday there'll be a traffic light there. But I think if you look at it closer, that corner where my parents' business and house is, we've got like a double wide sidewalk, and you're talking about taking the first sidewalk closest to the curb. That's nice, but we park on that sidewalk just to avoid all this traffic. So if we can relocate these gardens to where my parents already have green space and along 3rd Avenue and along the corner of Eastview, closer to the corner, I think it'd be a lot better served and keep the traffic flowing a lot better, and, you know, and serve your purpose too. I don't know, how do I get in line to talk to someone about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, John, I've noted down your name, and so we will absolutely follow up with you if you.
Oh, thank you.
And so, you know, just as a note, this is a really good comment. You know, obviously we'll need to look at the plan sets. Not sure, you know, if that particular location is located there, like because there were other underground barriers, or we might
No.
actually trying to avoid your parents' garden area, right? So
Right.
that is one thing. If we see people have things in there, as much as possible, we want to avoid that. Obviously, we
Yeah.
can't all. So
Right.
I have it marked down. We will definitely circle back with you on that one. Okay.
Oh, beautiful. So you don't need my phone number no more like that? Or
If
you
you
want to
could
email me?
send us your phone number in the chat, that would definitely make it easier.
Okay.
But we are public utilities, and so we typically know how to get a hold of you.
Oh,
But
okay.
a phone number is
Excellent.
definitely appreciated.
Okay.
Well,
Thank you very much.
no problem. Thank you. One question that had come through the chat that I had started to respond to, but let's just do it verbally here. So someone had asked if which department or division do you contact to coordinate? And I believe that's when we were talking about sidewalks. And so definitely in any neighborhood, if you want to advocate for sidewalks to be installed in your neighborhood, Public Service is the division that does that. But really to coordinate sidewalks, Public Service prefers those requests to come through your area commission. So you can coordinate with your area commission, 5th by Northwest area commission for this area, and the Department of Neighborhoods liaison that's assigned to that group can also kind of help shepherd that process. So any neighborhood that you're in, that is generally the preferred process. But again, as Nick said, we are, trying to have conversations to coordinate anytime we're in a neighborhood and we're kind of disrupting things and, digging things up. We want to try and cram as much work into that as possible. One other chat, and then I'll look for, or actually, John House. I'm not pronouncing that correctly, but.
It's close. You're fine.
Okay.
So I also kind of want to echo a little bit of John Fortin's comment. Back in 2018, when you had your 30% design meeting, we raised this issue that Eastview Avenue is a major thoroughfare, particularly for the fire department that is further down on 3rd. And just wanted to alert you guys to that, because from what I understood, the permeable pavement is not as durable as regular asphalt. And if you're going to have routine heavy tractor trucks going down on that north side of Eastview, that could be a concern. And I've heard other projects have had they've changed the plans because of that same thing, because of the level of traffic that's there. So that north section, I don't know if that changes anything, but there are a number of large tractor trucks and fire department vehicles that do go down through Eastview Avenue on a routine basis.
Okay. All right. That's a good note. Nick or Patrick, is there anything that you want to add about the pavers and the load bearing weight?
Hey, this is Nick. Yeah, I haven't looked at the actual structural design requirements for the permeable pavement in a little while, so I'd have to get back on that. Patrick might be more familiar with it off the top of his head.
And another question. Really, I like in the areas that I have of several properties on Eastview Avenue, and I like that the rain gardens where they're at. I like that they're not going to be the bump out and take away from the parking. I think that's a really good addition. But one of the questions I guess I have is, when you put the rain gardens in, are you only addressing the curbs with respect to the rain gardens, or are you going to be addressing curb issues on the entire street for Eastview?
So when we're doing rain gardens, then yes, the curb replacement really kind of happens around the rain garden. So it wouldn't be for the entire street.
Okay, because
Now on paver streets, obviously there would be a full
okay.
curb reconstruction.
So that's one of the concerns I have. If the north end of Eastview is going to have nice pavers, they're going to have nice curbs, and then the south half of Eastview is going to have this mishmash of old granite curbs and then new concrete curbs. It's really going to take away from a lot of any curb appeal, the issues that are there. So that's one concern. Secondly, again, back in the 2018 meeting, we raised this issue. A number of residents raised this issue that we had all gotten letters from Kokosing that they were going to be doing repaving the roads. So we addressed that and said, why are we repaving the roads when we're doing this? Well, when they repaved the road, Eastview, I now have on several of the properties and several other areas up and down the street, the road actually is now higher than the original curb that was there. And I have downspouts that are now below grade, and they are not in the areas that you're going to be addressing curbs or gardens. So I've got an issue with other curb issues and downspout areas on that property that, had this all would have been able to be coordinated together, could have been addressed in one fell swoop, instead of having to spend money on paving a road to now have to figure something else out. And I don't know why, when they paved the road, I mean, the road is higher than the curbs that are there. So none of that curb work was addressed at the time. And now all the water's backing up. It goes into my yard.
Okay.
And these are not areas that you're planning to address with the rain gardens.
So, John, one thing that I would like to say about that part, because that's a common issue, right? Whenever there's repaving, it kind of starts jacking up the level. And so with the downspouts, what I would like is, particularly if the paving has blocked your downspout now, and if it's causing a backup, certainly, if you could email us the addresses of those properties, we can share that with public service so that they can come in. That's something that obviously you're going to want to address sooner than we're even going to be coming in. Now, as part of our downspout redirection project, certainly we will be looking at those lines, but particularly what we're interested in is the lines that aren't discharging out to the street, right? And so in this situation, it sounds like they would if they had a place to go.
Correct.
So we definitely would want to elevate that to public service, because we certainly wouldn't want you to wait even for our construction to come in, since it's still several years out. And in terms of the coordination, we had long conversations with public service about that. And, given the requests that they were receiving, and things like that, and then their time frame, we felt like they felt like a few years, which is really what we were talking about before we were going to come in, was too long to make the community wait. So I realize it doesn't seem necessarily intuitive, but we tried, for what it's worth. So.
Right.
And Leslie, I will add regarding the curbs, it's really at about this stage of plan development too, that we do start coordinating and reaching out to public service to see if they would be interested in partnering up with us as part of our project to replace all of the curbs along the street due to that lack of reveal and the fact that we're going to be installing rain gardens and transitioning from sandstone to concrete back to sandstone, in that our new concrete curbs will have a 6-inch reveal, and it would eventually transition down to a 0-inch reveal at some point on the street. This is
That's exactly one of the, again, the north end of Eastview is going to have all bright, because of the pavers at this point are going to have all new curbs. They're going to have a sidewalk on the north end, and it's going to look all beautiful up there. And then it's going to come down to the south end where my property is, and I'm going to have a mismatch of, old curbs that are now below grade, and it's going to transition strangely into these concrete. It's just going to look terrible, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's the ammunition that we're going to take to public service in an attempt to get them to partner with us on that curb replacement.
And I'd be happy to meet with someone like John Fortin said too. If you want to, I'll walk you through the areas. I'll show you the specific areas of concern. Happy to meet with someone and walk through the specific areas that I have concerns with, not only just my property, but other properties that are on the street that are having similar issues, who are, obviously didn't make it to the meeting tonight.
Yep, that sounds good.
Leslie, if you're talking, you're muted.
Thank you, Joseph. Well, then what I was saying was, thank you, John. Absolutely. We will circle back with you. One very important question that has come in on the chat is, will tree protection zones be established for trees on private property, which would be impacted by excavation? The answer to this is yes. So obviously, we want to limit any impact to trees as much as possible. But in some situations, and particularly when we're talking about water lines and things like that, sometimes that is difficult. If we are taking away a tree, whether it's in the right of way in front of your house, or even if it's just in the right of way in front of your house, we will be having a conversation with you and identifying that specific tree inventory about which ones need to come down and which ones are going to be protected is part of this kind of next level of detailed design that the engineers will be working on. Private property trees in particular, those are your property, so we definitely need to coordinate with you on that. And so yes, there would be very strict tree protection zones. We also utilize arborists on this team to evaluate trees whenever we're considering taking them down or working around them, so that we can be sure that they are going to be protected. So, so just to address that, we will have more detailed information about trees certainly coming up in the next phase of design. And then another one that I want to do real quick is someone asked, can the pavers be snow plowed? And the answer to that is yes. So those pavers, the stones or the bricks have beveled edges so that they won't be catching those snow plows on there. Typically, we're not putting these on main thoroughfares or, significant ones. We try to avoid that, but yes, they can handle the snow plows and they can handle the salt.
That's all right. You don't get a snowplow around here that much anyways.
Yeah, Leslie, Leslie, I was going to tell you, I lived on Dayton for 10 years. It doesn't get plowed.
Right.
And one of the benefits of paver streets is, because that water is draining down, they're also not as subject to a freeze thaw cycle as much as like the brick roads that you see in German Village, for example. And so what we do typically see on those roads is less ice accumulation just because, that water has a flow. Joe Pellegrino, were you raising your hand?
Yes, I was. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks for doing this. I'm living on North Star Avenue, and I guess you guys were out this week. Kind of laying everything out.
Mhm.
And my comment is this would be a little more essential is where you have it kind of, there's an alley that runs just north of West 3rd Avenue. And there's a storm drain at the corner of West 3rd Avenue and North Star Avenue. The alley runs down alongside my property, and then it turns south to go to the storm drain. I think if you would move the rain garden, which is north of the alley, if you would move that south of the alley as it comes down the alley and heads south to the storm drain, I think that rain garden really soak up a lot of that water prior to the storm drain or sewer, whatever you guys are calling it. Talking with my neighbor also is from Fifth Avenue, West Fifth Avenue, heading south to that alley. We don't get a whole lot of water because by the time it gets to me, on our corner in our area, it's kind of faded out and superseded there by the alley, heading east and then turning south. So I'm thinking if you want to move this and make it more essential, and I'm looking at these rain gardens, I guess another word would be a sponge, or to soak up all that water. It would alleviate all that water from going from the alley to the storm drain, and hopefully that soak all that up there. I've been here 37 years, 1984, and I see where it comes down the alley, heads south to 3rd Avenue, which got the rain garden north of the alley. You have another one, and I'm right across the street from Grandview football field, and you have one like directly across the street from my house, or almost by the entrance to the football stadium. You have one there. I'm not sure if that would be more central, if you would put that even a little more south of where you have it. That makes sense. I'm just trying to soak up a lot of this water where it's going, and not where it's not where it would not be going. Any of that makes
Right.
sense?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for that word. Rain gardens, definitely, they are supposed to be kind of a sponge, right? We're trying to soak it up. So that's a really good flag. We've noted this location, and I definitely will have the engineers kind of look at that, and we can circle back with you to kind of talk more about that.
Okay, yeah, now I'm available. I'm retired, so I'm here all the time. So anytime you guys want to call me or whatever, if you need, I think you've got my.
Perfect. Okay.
I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
No, thank you. I've got a hand raised for Mike Spielberg.
Yeah, I wanted to speak to the gentleman's question. He's right. It would be great to put it south. Unfortunately, the Corp line runs right down that alley. And so south of the alley is Grandview Heights.
You have to go across 3rd Avenue to get Grandview Heights. There's a sign right there, welcome to Grandview. That is Columbus from the alley to 3rd Avenue, even across over there by where the high school is. That's still Columbus.
Okay. The information that I had from Columbus GIS showed it going down the alley. So that's definitely something to look into then.
Right, yeah, no, I did verify that with, like I said, didn't mean to interrupt you, but yeah, that's, like I said, I've been here. So in other words, if somebody on the corner lot would call 911, you're gonna have Columbus would come, Grandview would come, and then Columbus would chase Grandview away, basically saying, this is our jurisdiction until you get south of Third Avenue, where there's like a little apartment building over there. That kind of starts Grandview, right across the street from the high school is. But all the way to Third Avenue, maybe 20 feet south of that on North Star, which turns into Oakland Avenue. So North Star Avenue and Oakland Avenue are the same street basically. But the alley is Columbus, storm drain, south of that is Columbus. And then even when you cross over Third Avenue, you've got maybe a 20 or 30 foot part right there. There's even a sign that says, welcome to Grandview, the friendly little city.
Okay. All right.
but
Yeah,
they-
we'll look into that. This is a good note, though, particularly in this area, you know, with Grandview Heights. So keeping in mind, I mean, to Mike Spielberg's point, who's on the design team for Sunrise Glen, that there are these kind of, as Joe was describing, right, these kind of like wonky boundaries between City of Columbus and Grandview Heights. And because we are you know, Columbus Public Utilities, and we're getting that money from the ratepayers, we do have those kind of tight lines that we have to stay in, not only actually just because of the different cities, but then also because of our sewer shed lines, right? So when you're looking at these project boundaries and you're like, why would they do that? And this doesn't match up with the neighborhood. It's very much about what's happening underground there, and then also those corporate limits. Here's an interesting question in the chat, and I'm not sure which project team this goes to. Do you know which side of the street the sidewalk would be on for Doton between 5th and Thornwood? Is that a Nick or a Patrick question?
Patrick question.
Okay, Patrick?
Yep, it's Patrick. I am looking as we speak. So 5th and Thornwood. That's 5th and 6th. I apologize. I was just trying to get to the right spot here. So between 5th and Thornwood, right now we're proposing it on the east side of Doton.
Great, thank you, Patrick.
I believe Randy wanted to raise his hand for a question.
Great.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm a little bit behind here, and I'm still trying to understand. We live at the corner of our properties at the corner of 3rd and Westwood, the northwest, or I'm sorry, the northeast corner. And I'm still wondering about the design for the corner of Westwood. You know, ours, it's going to be the side of our house on Westwood, because I don't know if we're going to get the pavers, or because we're concerned about the parking, because I know you mentioned you were going to sample the parking at different times or monitor the parking, but with the Naughty Pine restaurant and bar plus the DK Diner right here, you know, we've got 2 restaurants plus the Italian Club, which has functions. We have a lot of problems with traffic at specific times. You know, you might come at certain times and there's not much traffic or not much problem parking. Come other times and there's no parking. So what is your plan for 3rd and Westwood? That's one question. The only other question I've got is that you've seem to be planning it for both, one for each side of the street, one on the northwest corner, one on the northeast corner. And that seems like it might be a little much for this area too. So could you give us a little more information?
Sure. 3rd and Westwood is that
That's in
Patrick?
Sunrise Glen. I don't know if
Oh,
you can pull up the overall map that I believe was on one of the previous slides, but it does show, yes, rain gardens on both sides of the street on Westwood, and I believe the northeast corner is having one installed that we are losing a parking spot there. Yeah, the lower left corner, right there. So we actually have, two red ones there where we're losing a parking spot on either side of the street.
Well, I think that's gonna be awfully tough because with the Naughty Pine right there, and like I say, the D people park there from the DK Diner as well, plus the Italian Club, you've got three, and it makes parking awful congested at times, awfully congested. And I think you ought to take that into consideration. I really do.
So, and that was definitely, I mean, as we were walking in the neighborhood and putting up these signs, we were able to have some conversations, and that definitely came up, certainly with Naughty Pines, and then also the Woodlands was another area that was identified where, parking can get really, really tight, particularly when they have those events. So that information right now is duly noted. I don't think we can give you kind of an answer on how we're going to fix that right now, but that is the kind of feedback that we're looking for at this stage.
Okay, because that's maybe you might consider the pavers. I don't know, where you wouldn't interfere with I don't know. I'm just.
Yeah. We need to chew on that one a little bit more, because again, we don't want to restrict parking as much as possible, but there's limited space in this neighborhood, and so we're trying to maximize as much as we can, but definitely recognizing that those businesses are kind of spilling over into those residential neighborhoods.
Right.
So yeah, that's thank you for that comment. Definitely, kind of can join in with the other ones that we were hearing, and so we'll think about that and kind of come back.
Okay, thank you.
So one question that just came up in the chat. So is there a reason that Glen Avenue between 3rd and 5th is not receiving any rain gardens? So
that's a Michael Spielberg question.
And Michael, obviously, I mean, but in general, I'm assuming that means that we weren't noting kind of any points of interest on that street or any kind of flooding that we were concerned about making worse.
I think it was more there's no good sites. I think if I recall, there's a lot of large trees on that road, and that ate up most of the right of way. So yeah, just the constraints led to there not being one there.
All right, let's see. And other outreach team, am I missing people? I don't see any more hands raised.
I don't see any other questions either. I was just going to say, if since we're at about 7 o'clock now, if we could at least go back to the last slide just to make sure everybody here has our contact information.
Yes,
So if there are any further questions, they can reach out to us and we can get back to you, especially with very specific questions towards things impacting your properties.
Thank you for that. So, so as we're kind of wrapping up here, definitely you can stay in touch with us. You can go to our website. So we have the city website, but we also have a neighborhood site set up specifically for residents that are in these active blueprint areas. So if you go to blueprintneighborhoods.com/contact us, you can sign up to receive updates about 5th by Northwest directly to your email. You can also always contact us. We want to answer your questions. We want to hear your feedback. And so you can email us, you can call us, you can visit us on social media, any of those things. Please make sure that we've kind of got this conversation going. We will also post the recording of this meeting, as well as the notes from the chat and things that we've discussed. We will post those on the 5th by Northwest page that is part of the Blueprint Neighborhood site, and we'll email something out and then also put something on social media so that any neighbors that weren't able to come can still receive this information. And then again, just because you weren't here, this is not your only time to talk to us, right? So we will be having this conversation certainly for a while. All right, any other questions before we wrap up? One new message. Okay, so this question was, what year is the pervious pavement going in? shovels in the ground for anything that we're talking about will be 2023. And as we kind of get closer to that, and as we're working out the plans more, we'll provide updated timelines that get more and more specific as we get closer to that, but still a couple years out. And I know that some of you probably we had a little misunderstanding with a couple members of our team, and so they thought that we were much closer to construction than we were. I do apologize for that misunderstanding. So we are not at that stage yet. So 2023 is really when construction will be starting, regardless of what you heard from an errant staff worker. So sorry about
I take
that. That was
responsibility for some of that.
miscommunication. I think it was only a couple blocks before we got it cleared up. So, all right. Okay, anything else?
I have a question.
Sure.
I know you can't see me.
That's
First
okay.
first time Zoomer. So I have a couple properties here. So the guys were out here a while ago doing survey work, but I asked if they took elevations for anything, so they knew where the water falls and flows. They said yes, but I don't think they really took any elevations. I have done some surveying and I'm like, they didn't really do a good job.
So if you're talking about like just recently, like the past few, like a
Yeah,
week or
it was
two ago,
before
yeah,
the road was done,
before the road was done.
before the resurfacing happened.
Oh, okay. I think, Nick, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the majority of our surveying for Blueprint certainly in this area happened in like 2015-ish, right?
There was some more recent surveying, but it wouldn't have been in the past year, I don't believe.
So if it was before resurfacing, that might have been the public service team kind of more specifically. And certainly when they're doing resurfacing, they do need to look at elevations, right? So that they're not creating situations where then the water isn't flowing where it is supposed to be. So I'm gonna say that was not our department. I don't like to throw it off, but we've been doing some surveying. You might see people walking around in the neighborhood, but certainly that kind of detailed surveying where we're taking the elevations and things like that, that part is over for us, at least.
Leslie, do you know if Columbia Gas has been in the neighborhood? Are they planning on doing their service line replacement work in the near future in here?
That's another good point. I haven't heard from them about this area specifically, but I can definitely check into that.
Yeah, that's a good issue because it's going to come up when you do a horizontal bore from someone's street and then you put the caps on the thing. They just came by recently within the last 2 months in the alley behind Bilton, and I cleaned out the thing and then they put blacktop in the holes for the gas lines and the water lines. I'm like, okay, whatever. So that's one thing. I have plenty of videos. I make it a point to, when we have a downpour, to take a video of like the sewer lid on Thornwood and Doten. Water just eddies around it because of the way the blacktop was formed and just goes across Thornwood into the alley and goes towards Meadow. So I've got videos like that. My side of the street on Doten towards south of Thornwood doesn't get any rainwater at all, other than from like 5 or 6 houses. And that's where you're going to put a rain garden. So it's kind of to me, it's kind of a moot point. Like you're putting a rain garden to capture the rain from literally, I don't know, 80 feet of curb. Seems like a silly thing to do. But if you go north of Thornwood, I have pictures of ponding and all kinds of stuff where a rain garden and pervious pavement's not going to take up what comes off it, because the water flows from 5th Avenue south onto Doten, and it ponds all the way out almost to the middle of the road on both sides, the east and the west side. So I've got videos of that. You can take that and analyze it, whatever, and then see what
So that's a really excellent point. And so thank you for that flag. Absolutely. And, you know, for anybody, but also particularly for you, videos and photos are really excellent for us, right? Because, you know, a lot of times we're receiving information about ponding, but really for us to try to address it or kind of look into it, we need to know how much it is, you know, maybe how long it's staying there, you know, exactly where the flow is coming from. So videos and photos are always helpful. Please feel free to send those to our email, blueprint@columbus.gov. That would be excellent.
Will do. Just gotta downsize them a little bit and then so you can actually open them. It won't be too big to
Okay.
send.
Perfect. Yes. Thank you.
So, all right, that's all I have. Thanks.
All right. Okay. Well, I think with that, then we're probably good. And thank you for spending the past hour and 15 minutes with us. Again, stay in touch. We will post this stuff online. Please share it. Please make sure that everybody knows that, you know, we're here to talk about it, and this is the time to talk about it, right? Not when the dump trucks are showing up. So we're really hoping to get as much feedback as we can this year and early into next year. So thank you so much. And definitely have some follow-up items here. Thank you for those that shared the stuff in the chat. And then my final plug is, don't forget our voluntary sump pump program. We're going to start pulling people off of the waiting list for that later this year. And so if you even think that you are interested in having a sump pump, even if you're just kind of on the fence and you're not sure, by signing up for us and going on the waiting list, essentially what we do is we come out, we look at your property, we say, okay, this is what's going to be involved in that. And at that point in time, you can say, okay, great, go ahead and proceed with the installation. Or you can say, ooh, I don't want that anymore. And we will just go away. So basically there's no risk in at least exploring it. So please let us know if you're interested, if your home does not have a sump pump. So. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your evening. The sun is out, and we will talk to you again soon.